Welcome here to Lacrosse Now. I'm Travis Eldridge. He's Tom Esched. A gigantic weekend in college lacrosse. We've got 1 versus 2 for both the men and the women. So we are going to break both of those games down extensively because this is maybe the biggest weekend of the college lacrosse regular season.
It's like the mini championship, part 1. If you championship weekend, part 1, and a happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yes,
to one and all. To those of you who celebrate and observe, as they say. We've got a great show for you, a lot of luck in the air. NCAA basketball is going on. What a great day and a great week for sports. So we're going to break down those games really intensely today. We're really focusing on those two. It's almost unprecedented this happened. So top 2s in those games. We'll explain that more as time goes on. And we'll have quick picks after our interviews for both the men and the women, too, today.
Yeah, speaking of those big games, we got Boston College's Mallory Hasselbeck, the freshman, getting ready for her first time playing in a game like this. We'll talk with her. We also have High Point's Asher Nolting. They've got a big game as well. They take on North Carolina this weekend.
Yeah,
so
that should be a good one, too.
Those are our 2 guests. But let's start, before we get to those games, let's start with what happened this week, our midweek moment. What's your midweek moment?
It happened last night. Loyola women beating Syracuse.
Florida women.
Florida women, excuse me. Apologize.
You got the
that.
green on the brain.
Yeah, a lot of green. And Florida, who had lost to Loyola earlier last week, I think it was. And they've had some tough games in this season. They played a really difficult schedule. They've lost to Maryland by 10, but close losses. They battled North Carolina, a 1-goal loss to Stony Brook as well. And then they beat Syracuse at home. And because you didn't know from maybe some of those results, well, Florida, they've hung around. Do they have what it takes to go and win those games? And you go and beat a team like Syracuse where they were off and run. If you watch that game, Florida was in control pretty much the whole game. Syracuse made a run here and there. But at the end of the day, Sarah Resnick really showing us all why she was so great last year, now trying to get that form back this year. She ended up making enough saves to get the job done. I think it was double-digit saves on the day, 10, 11 saves for her. But it was Lopinto and Pavanelli, 6 points apiece, who really were able to get on Syracuse, a team that, as we know, one of the best in the country all year long. So that was my midweek moment, an upset. And we've got Florida here on LSN on Sunday, so it's going to be fun to see them play Drexel.
It was indeed 11 saves for Sarah Resnick in that win over Syracuse. Would they jump up 5-1, 6-1? That was
early,
an impressive start. Syracuse just could never quite get going there on the road. Mine, I'm going to go back to the state of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
In the men's game, Bucknell holding on against Penn State. This game was at Bucknell. Nice win for a Bison team that was right around the top 20 conversation. Then they lost to BU. BU continuing to move up the rankings. This is not a Bucknell team that I think anybody can take lightly, and this is a perfect example. 12-11 victory. Rich O'Halloran came in early in this game, the freshman. What a way to get your first win. It's against a Big Ten program, his first career victory. First win for Bucknell since 2012 against Penn State. They've only played one other time since then. They've actually won, I was surprised to see this, they've won 4 of 5 in this series. So Bucknell's had a little bit of a run. Obviously, the middle stretch where they haven't played a lot is where Penn State's program has really been taken to another level. But Bucknell has kind of owned this series as of late. Alston Terry, 3 goals. He's got 25 points this year for Bucknell. Remember that name because I think this Bucknell team's going to be wreaking some havoc in a Patriot League that is just chaos.
It's wide open right now,
I mean, Lehigh, Army, BU, Bucknell, Loyola. It's just Navy. Throw them in there. Anybody can beat anybody, it seems like, on any given day.
Loyola proved that when they beat Duke. So you're like, how good are any of these teams? They could be great. They could not be. But at least at the end of the day, it's really entertaining. What a conference.
And think about it. Patriot League now has an Army win over Syracuse and a Loyola win over Duke. They've got a couple of wins over ACC programs this year.
And that's not a win over a Big Ten program isn't bad either for Bucknell.
Yeah,
pretty
so
good.
There you go.
All right, so let's get to our top 2s. We'll start with the men's game, Maryland and Virginia. So we'll do our top 2 players to watch and then our top 2 stats we're looking for in this game. All right, your number 1 player to watch.
When I look at this game, we know the stars. You've got
Logan Wisnauskas.
Yeah, Logan Wisnauskas and Connor Schellenberger. Thank you. I don't know why I just blanked it up.
Jonathan Donville.
But those are the stars. So I went all right, who needs to step up around those people? And for me, for Virginia, defensively, it's up to Cole Kastner. He took such a giant step forward last year. You hear Lars Tiffany talk about him and how he was such a raw talent at times last season. And he make a bunch of mistakes, but he also makes plays that guys can't make. And he's only become more and more sound in terms of defensive tactics. He's gotten so much better. And the size, you just can't shake. So he's going to go up against Logan Wisnauskas, I would imagine. And you got 6'7", 200 Cole Kastner against 6'3", 215 Logan Wisnauskas. I mean, that's like a basketball matchup. They should be playing on a court somewhere
down
here
low.
in March.
Yeah.
I mean, that is going to be a fascinating matchup. The thing for Maryland that I will be interested to see, obviously they're used to it. They've played Virginia, obviously the national championship. They've played them over the last several years. But the length of this defense cannot be replicated in practice. The length of this Virginia defense is unlike anything you've seen. I watched the Towson game, then I did the Towson-Virginia game. And Towson has some big, long defenders. They are big across the back. And they're trying to throw skip passes that against any other defense works, not against Virginia. And I think that will be something to watch. The turnover battle, which I'll get to later, will be fascinating. Can Virginia create some? Because if Maryland turns the ball over a few more times than they're used to, it keys everything for Virginia because it lets them get out and run, lets them make the game a little bit more chaotic, and Virginia thrives in those situations. So I think it all goes down to Cole Kastner against Logan Wisnauskas. Can Kastner make Wisnauskas uncomfortable enough that the Maryland offense just gets a little bit more uncomfortable, does some things they're not usually doing, gives up a few more turnovers, and it creates Virginia going the other way, doing what they do best?
Yeah, and that will play into one of my players and things to watch in this game, too. But while we have it up there, you're also looking at the goalie for Maryland as your other player.
Yeah, so my other player to watch is Logan McNaney because he was an honorable mention All-American candidate last year, a guy who, because of what they did last year, he's right there in the All-American conversation again. But the thing he hasn't seen a lot of this year is shots. So you look at the shots numbers that he's dealt with. The most he's faced in any game this year is 39 shots against Syracuse. Virginia, on average this season through 6 games, averages nearly 50 shots per game. They're at 49.8. They had the most, I think it was 55 against Towson.
Jeez.
So chances are Logan McNaney is going to see more shots in this game than he's seen all year. Maybe double what he's seen in some other games. And he hasn't been great. He's only got double-digit save numbers in 2 games this year. It was against Syracuse and Notre Dame. And remember last year in the national championship game, only made 11 saves, gave up 17 goals. So Virginia had his number in that game.
Yeah, that matters.
Yeah, so he's going to see more shots than he's used to. It's going to be a different game than he's faced all year. Because even like the games that he's shown up in terms of double-digit saves, Syracuse is playing slow this year, and Notre Dame plays slow. Virginia is a completely different beast than I think anybody that they've faced this year in terms of offense versus that defense.
Okay. All right. I like both of those, actually. My 2 guys to watch for Virginia, it's Xander Dixon and Maryland Keegan Kahn. I'll start with Xander Dixon, and this is offensively, he can get the job done. He has the knack for some highlight reel plays that can really get the sideline going. 13 goals, 5 assists. But you look at down farther the stat line, he does have 5 caused turnovers this year. That means he's doing his job on the ride. And we know the emphasis on the ride. Travis and I both talked to Lars Tiffany about that going into this season, that they wanted to do that and they wanted to do it better than they have in the past. So you look at what Maryland's done in some of the games. Now, they haven't lost, but they have a couple of games in which they've struggled more than others. 19 for 22 against Notre Dame. Not perfect clearing is what I'm talking about here. Against Syracuse, 20 of 25. Travis touched on some of those turnovers. They had 18 of them against Notre Dame. Don't want to steal Travis's thunder, but I'm just saying when it comes down to that ride that Virginia employs and the clearing, which has had its bumps in the road at times if you're Maryland, I think that a guy like Xander Dixon and the aggressiveness and the emphasis they put on that could really be big in that spot. Not in the offensive end, but on the other end, maybe when they give it up, or on their offensive end when they give it up or a missed shot or what have you. So Xander Dixon, a guy I'm watching. The other guy from Maryland, Keegan Kahn. 5 goals, 9 assists this year. 4 goals of those, 2 of those assists were in the debut game here as he moved to Maryland.
He's been quiet.
He hasn't scored a goal since February 12th against Loyola. So if you're going to win a game like this, we know what Wisnauskas is going to do. We know what Jonathan Donville is going to do, even Long out there too. But if you're Maryland, you need help from other sources. And he, going into the season, was a source they brought in for games like this. We talk about these transfers all the time in terms of what they're bringing to these teams, why they've been brought in. Keegan Kahn's here to win games, help them win games like this, and be another facet to their depth that Virginia has to figure out how to match up with. Because a lot of the time, yeah, maybe Wisnauskas will get his or whatever happens on that day, but it's that third and fourth option that wins these games because of those matchups that Travis just alluded to. They're so tightly stacked and so evenly matched that you need some of those other outlets. And I think Keegan Khan could be a big key to that for Maryland.
Well, I think you look at the different options that Maryland has offensively, and the question then for Virginia becomes, where do you put the poles? Like, does Keegan Khan end up with a short stick because he hasn't beaten anybody here in a while? Do they dare Maryland to go to him, see if he gets going, or does he still get a pull because of what he's done in the past? It'll be fascinating to watch for matchup-wise.
All right, stats.
Yeah, and so off of that in terms of turnovers, you're talking about it with Xander Dixon. So I was looking through the national numbers. I was actually very interested to see, despite the fact that we know how Virginia plays, and they like to make things a little chaotic, they're top 11 in the country in turnovers per game. Both them and Maryland are right there around 13, 14 turnovers per game. Some of the best in the country at taking care of the ball.
Yes.
And so I'll be interested to see now when they match up together, where do those numbers go? Because I think Virginia needs to turn Maryland over a lot more than Maryland has to turn Virginia over. I think that is just the way in which they thrive. I'm not saying Virginia can't win this game in a settled 6-on-6 set, but Virginia's going to feel a lot more comfortable if they are getting transition goals. Look at that North Carolina game. That North Carolina game turned when North Carolina decided we're going to play up and down with Virginia. Now, that's how Carolina plays, but that works right into how Virginia wants to play. That game was chaotic in the second half, and that's when Virginia went on their run where they took control of the game and it was over. So I will be interested to see, can Virginia turn Maryland over and may allow them to play the comfort level in which they're used to. That was that national championship game. Virginia was comfortable because that game was fast. 17-16 is not a game Maryland wants to play in this one.
No, I don't think so either, because they like that situation in which they can control things and they can be methodical almost in the way their offense runs with each other. And that plays into my stats here with clearing percentage. And like I said, it alluded to the player I'm watching in terms of Xander Dixon. The clearing percentage, you go into the stats here, 87.2% for Maryland. That's 18th in the country. Virginia, 85.8%, 33rd. So Maryland's done a better job than Virginia. But if Virginia can get a couple that maybe they shouldn't, that other teams haven't, that's where you can get that advantage. My other one there, when it plays in the turnover game, is faceoffs. And I know it seems like an obvious one, but you've got a good matchup here. Weirman,
great matchup.
67% against LaSalle, 63.5% this year. So if there is an edge there, does that turnover battle mean even more in terms of how often a team's getting it, but how often can you take it away? There are teams that have great faceoff guys that turned over 18, 19 times a game. We've seen that before. You just have the ball so often that it's going to get taken away. But if they can take care of the ball, and maybe one team an aberration in that and not take care of the ball, that's where you have that advantage. So if there's a bit of a face-off edge there, you can see one team maybe start to pull away a little bit if you can get one or two in a row. That, to me, when you have those trends face-off-wise, when it's that evenly matched, it's, I think, a matter of whether or not you can see a LaSalle win 3 or 4 in a row, and all of a sudden there's a run for Virginia. You know, because I feel like they're going to be almost 50-50, but when do those come? That is the most important thing here.
Yeah, no, I agree. And finally, when it comes to getting possession saves, like how many can each of these guys steal? I already mentioned McNaney. For Matthew Nunes, I was interested to see, like, first couple of big games, what's it going to be like? Especially that North Carolina game, I think, told us a lot about Matthew Nunes as a player. Because in these ACC games, you're going to give up goals. Like, it's almost a given when you play in the ACC or a game like this, you're probably going to give up double digits. Like, expecting your defense to hold an offense like a Maryland, a Carolina, a Duke to single-digit goals is almost impossible. So you're going to give up a bunch, probably more than you're used to as a starting goalie, especially when you walk into his freshman. But he gives up 11 goals. He made some of the saves he needed to. Wasn't pressured a ton against Carolina. So I'll be interested to see, can he carry it over? Another big game, biggest game of his career, walking into this one on a neutral, by the way, neutral field, Audi Field in D.C., huge environment. How does the freshman show up? The one thing I will say is, in talking to Lars Tiffany about him, and one of the selling points for him was, like, he just is so cool, calm, and collected, both on the field in the crease and when he walks out of it, that it just seems like, at least in what Lars has told us, that nothing phases him. So if he's like that in this big spot, I think he performs well and steals a couple that maybe he shouldn't.
He might not have as many saves as his counterpart, but I think for him, the big thing in this one's going to be the type of saves he makes. You always hear coaches say, make a couple saves, 2 or 3, that you're not supposed to make.
In big moments.
In big moments, and I think that's where that will really come to fruition in this game for him.
We're not picking this game at the end. Do you have a feel for it? Like, who do you like?
Are we picking this game?
I don't know. We're not doing it at the end of the show.
All right, let's do it right now.
What do you got?
What do you got? I have... Man, this is tough.
It's really hard. I have no... And we go... Honestly, we've gone through all of this, and I keep thinking about both of these teams. And I've done this every week when I've voted in my poll. The only reason, really, I've gone with Virginia as my number 1 is because they were my number 1 at the beginning of the year, and I haven't really felt the need to drop them off of that. But I have no problem with everybody who's voted Maryland the number 1 team in the country.
I think, I'm going purely off of feel here in this moment, and I feel like that you have a Maryland team that's a little bit more battle-tested. They've played some tougher competition so far. That helps. I know the Carolina win is a nice one for Virginia. But you also have the memory of the title game from last year, and I feel like that's going to be on the minds of a lot of these guys from Maryland, because you have that scenario in which if you had 2 more minutes, maybe Maryland's sitting here as a defending national championship, and I think national champions, and I think that's going to be riding high in their minds, and will that's what you need in this kind of a game, a little bit extra of a motivation. Virginia's motivated. I'm not saying they're not as motivated, but that just gives a little bit more of a nugget in the back of their spine there. Maryland to win this one.
We didn't talk about him. I think Matt Moore is also a gigantic key.
Yeah.
Because of Schellenberger has been the guy. Matt Moore in years past had been the guy. You got 2 number 1s for Virginia. And if Schellenberger gets the number 1 assignment and has a tough day, you have another option. And I don't know if Maryland has that. And so in terms of dynamic pieces, I think Virginia very much plays up to the situation. I think we've seen it all year. Like, when they've played their best competition, it's when we've seen them at their best. I think they play up for it. I think it's a 1-goal game, but I'm going to go Cavs.
Okay. I would say, I'm not saying Jonathan Donville is Matt Moore, but he's close to that strategy.
He's a different player, though.
I know they're different. They're different
Schellenberger and Moore can both be like quarterback-type attackmen.
They create more than Donville will create. But and in terms of making an impact at the end of the day,
agreed.
I think
he's very, very good.
Off and get pretty dangerous there. All right, pivot. Women's time now.
1 versus 2.
Let's go run it back, as they say. You got number 1 Boston College, number 2 North Carolina playing over in Chestnut Hill. We'll start here. We're also going to do players to watch and 2 intangibles for this one for our top 2. This is the theme today. So players to watch. I'll go first.
You got it.
I'm going to start here. My players to watch are both on the back end of things. I love defense.
You're all about defense.
Emily Knowles for North Carolina, and you have Rachel Hall for Boston College. I'll start with Emily Knowles. 2nd on the team in draw controls. She leads the team in caused turnovers, 3rd in ground balls. She is the type of player that, yes, we know Emma Trenchard is probably going to be tasked with Charlotte North. I think that's pretty obvious, but it's what is going to happen outside of that might make the difference here today. I don't know if Trenchard's going to be able to stop Charlotte North, maybe to slow down, but it's some of those other options. Unless Charlotte North has like 10 goals, that's a different story. Emily Knowles is the kind of player that is a game changer, and we talk about some of those in terms of national championship teams and aspirations. Knowles does a little bit of everything for this team, and she does all of those things that you don't necessarily realize until the game's over. Oh, there's another ground ball. There's a stick-on-stick check or what have you, where someone is at the 8-meter arc and she's able to get in there to stop it. And those little plays are so important, and she's the one who makes those for the most part for North Carolina. So I think Emily Knowles is going to be huge on that back end of the defense. And then you have Rachel Hall. And she's fascinating to me because she came on the scene during the championship weekend last year, during that run Boston College. She was outstanding. And, of course, you have the 11 saves against North Carolina in the NCAA tournament to back that up in the regular season. And we saw this last year. Rachel Hall and Boston College, not the dominant team that we saw towards the end of last season. And they haven't been that way in terms of the defense and the goalie play either this year. 37.4% saves. Last year it was 38 during the regular season.
Yeah.
So Rachel Hall is going to once again have to play the way she did in that championship, in that semifinal against North Carolina this time around, or they're going to lose like they did last year in the regular season. She has to once again step up and play not above her means, because we know she can do it, but she has to, once again, rise to the occasion.
Step up.
Excuse me.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I'm I'm going to go on the flip side because I'm going to talk offense. You talk defense, I'm going to talk offense. We've got, for North Carolina, Ali Mastroianni, and then I'm going to go with the obvious one for Boston College and Charlotte North. We'll get to Charlotte in a second. But when I was looking at North Carolina, what Ali has done here over her last 4 games, she's got 13 goals in her last 4 after scoring just 5 goals in the first 4 games of the season. She's also been terrific at the draw circles. She's got 8+ draw controls in each of these last 4 games as well. Hat trick at least in every one of these. I think she will be a difference maker in terms of, look, you know what you're going to get from Jamie Ortega. They've got so much depth. You could probably mention one of like 6 players in terms of players who could step up offensively along with Jamie Ortega to make a difference in this game. But I'll be interested to see not only for her offensively, but also in the draw circle, can both of those numbers continue to push forward?
And she's doing it against Charlotte North, keep in mind,
right,
in the draw control circle.
Right.
So you have these 2 players, and I think Mastroianni is maybe not as important, but Ortega, of course, is so good. But Mastroianni, quiet, I don't know if it's as quiet as it used to be, but she is very important to what North Carolina does in a lot of different ways, and maybe sometimes going unheralded in that fact. So she, at this point in the season, and this regular season game, I think is going to be the kind of championship player that we've seen from her.
I mean, think about it. She's one of their top scorers, and like, how many other North Carolina players garner like the Tuorton conversation? And she's kind of one of the outside fringe players in that conversation. She's right there up there with Ortega, who also, by the way, has been spectacular so far this year. But let's get to Charlotte North.
Okay. What you got?
She's got 41 goals this season, 48 points. She's second in the NCAA in goals per game. And after everything she did last year, I think it would be easy to go, it would be so easy for her to take a step back because those expectations and how great she was, especially toward the end of last season, are like almost untouchable. I mean, breaking records, scoring 100+ goals, like that stuff is so like unbelievable to do one year, to then come back with all the expectations, the defending national champs taking everybody's best shot, and to do what they've done, whether it was blowing out Northwest or taking care of business in all these games they have so far, is incredibly impressive. But this leads me into one of my intangibles, the free position. Everybody sees the highlights. Nobody makes highlights out of free position goals except for Charlotte North. She's it. Like nobody said before Charlotte North came onto the scene, oh, you know what I need in my highlight? I need a free position goal with her lining up at the 8-meter. Nobody said that. But all of a sudden, she's turned it into this show. She winds up, and it's like must-watch TV. She's 14 of 19 on free positions this year. That's better than 73%. That's ridiculous.
15th in the country in that stat. And there's a lot of people that take those.
It's unbelievable. And so that, to me, will be a huge key. If she gets some of those, and it's almost like when she sends one of those in, like when she's winding up, it's almost a momentum boost. I almost equate it to like a face-off goal in the men's game, where it's this like momentum-shifting goal because of the oomph and the style in which she does it. Every game she's played in these big moments, is so often, like in the men's game, we see a number 1 guy get shut down. And it's like because they let the 2, 3, and 4 guys take the matchups or whatever. Charlotte North in these big games goes off.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at a player to watch, and I was like, I could pick some of these other key players for Boston College. And like North Carolina, they got lots of options offensively. But you look at Charlotte North, like she has the ability, even against this North Carolina defense, to go off for 5, 6, or 7 goals.
It's not just about ability; it's mentality too.
That too.
She
wants it.
It's a different mentality, and not that anyone else's mentality isn't just as competitive, but there's just something different that she can tap into that separates her from the rest.
So,
and that's why even if you might look at North Carolina and say top to bottom, they're more talented and they might have more depth because of the transfers and what they've brought in and the goalie play from Marino. You look at Charlotte North, you go, okay, it's even. I don't know what's going to happen. So I'll go to my intangibles now.
Yeah, go for it.
Yours was, one of them was the
free position.
So was mine. So
okay.
mine as well. I also have that because, like you said, and maybe think about this when you're talking about the momentum and almost like a dunk in basketball or whatever. But you got to stop on one of those. on one of the Charlotte North free positions. Moreno gets going there and is seeing the ball pretty well and stops one of those BBs that are coming at her. That can change the game too. BC's 5th in the nation in free position goal percentage. They are excellent when it comes down to that. And North Carolina, 17.75 fouls per game. That is 61st in the nation. So it's not like they're elite in that. They haven't, they're careful on defense, but not too careful. So there's going to be opportunities is what I'm trying to get at here.
Yeah.
And if the Tar Heels can make a couple stops there where they're going to be tested, then things will go more their way, I believe. So that's one of my intangibles. The other is a little bit more emotional.
Oh, emotional.
Yes, memories. Because you have a couple of different memories tied to this game. You had the regular season from last year. That game. Do you remember that game?
I do.
That was 21-9. North Carolina
dominant,
trouncing Boston College in the regular season. North Carolina on their way to almost an undefeated season as a whole. And then you have the national semifinal, in which competitive, but BC pulling away 16-10 in that semifinal game. How will those memories impact things, and how will maybe the regular season game also be on the minds of Boston College and say, well, similar kind of time of year, and a lot of that can come back to you. So at the same time, you have the end of the season in which, those are pretty sour memories, the national semifinal, in which the Boston College completely flipped the script. I mean, you go from 20-9 over to 16-10 in the national semifinal. So those are things that such two big swings over the course of two games really have me intrigued in terms of what the memory is going to be and how that impacts, internally, the back of the mind of some of these players. Yeah, it's a new season. These are new teams. But how thick are those memories from the last two meetings they've had, which have been equally epic?
It was an 11-10 game in the national
11-10.
They won 16-10 in the championship against Syracuse.
Okay.
There you
I
go.
apologize.
But,
thanks for looking at that.
Yeah,
apologize.
No.
Close game, whatever,
yes.
It is what it is.
Yeah. They flipped the script. That game in the national semifinal, too, was a game in which Boston College jumped up and then held on at the end. It was 11-6 early in the second half.
That's what I was
They didn't score down the stretch, and then it ended up being 11-10 for them to hold on. So it leads me into what my other intangible is that Boston College needs a run. And most likely, I think it's got to be relatively early, because all season long, we asked Tracy Wiener this a couple weeks ago when we were talking about UNC versus Boston College, and it's how do you keep up with North Carolina offensively? Because the defense for Carolina is probably the best in the country in terms of having elite defenders. So
goalie.
So going goal for goal against North Carolina is really hard. Now, if you can string a couple of goals together, and like Boston College did in the national semifinals against this team, go up by a couple, you give yourself some breathing room so that, when North Carolina goes on the run, it's not we're down by 3 goals, and now we have to figure out how to score over and over and over against North Carolina defense. It's, okay, we've got some breathing room. We don't have to grip the stick a little too tight and press against a defense that's really, really good. And so for me, I think Boston College, whether it's winning a bunch of draw controls or getting a couple of stops of their own, a couple of Rachel Hall saves, if they can get up early, whether it's right off the bat, somewhere midway, end of the first half, if they can build up some kind of 3-4 goal lead, I think that bodes well for them in terms of holding on, because I think that's the recipe. You can't get down big against Carolina anywhere close to the second half and expect to come back. I just think their defense is too good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, who you got? Let's pick it.
Man.
Off the cuff pick. We weren't planning to
this
pick.
Game's at Boston College. I'm gonna lean BC. I'm going to lean BC. I think it's a 1-goal game. I think it's high scoring, maybe like 15-14 situation.
Okay.
So I'm going to go BC 15-14.
All right. I am going to go the way of North Carolina, because you look at the entirety of last season, and North Carolina was the best team in the country until the very end. Yeah, of course, the championship is what it is, but North Carolina is once again the best team in the country this year. I know BC's getting all the votes, but at the end of the day, it is North Carolina with the most depth and the most talent. And Charlotte North is the X factor. That's not going to be enough this time. You kind of throw some of that stuff out the window once you get to championship weekend in the NCAA tournament. I understand that, but we're not in that. Right now, we're in the regular season. North Carolina, to me, is the best team. I've seen them play, and they are better than BC right now, right here, right now, in my estimation. 14-12 is what my score is.
You've been all on the BC bandwagon throughout the year, I feel like. Now you're just jumping on Carolina?
I feel like I've been on the Carolina bandwagon.
All right, man. Maybe I misread it.
I was the one who came out and was disappointed that North Carolina didn't get more first-place votes at the beginning of the year.
You're right. That's fair. I will say, you hit on the free positions. One thing I think is interesting, North Carolina is only 45% on the season in free positions. That's kind of like top 50, but not toward the top of the country.
Something else that they do as well, and they do it pretty well, almost like you watch in basketball and you have like an inbound play. They run a lot of plays off those two.
That's true.
So they don't get, they might have an opportunity, don't take as many shots, and depending on the spot. So they run a lot of plays off of free positions at the same time that they sort of work through to try to get it maybe even a better shot than just rushing towards the goal.
Anyway, speaking of this game, it's the first time that Mallory Hasselbeck, #1 incoming recruit, now a freshman at Boston College, has had a chance to play in this game, which means we had a chance to catch up with her to talk about what she thinks that's going to be like. Listen to that interview here. So ahead of the big game coming up on Sunday, we have Boston College's Mallory Hasselbeck joining us now. Mallory, the last time we spoke was, I think, a year or so ago, and you had the knee injury. You hadn't played lacrosse in a while, so I have to imagine things are a lot better than the last time we did this.
Yeah, definitely a lot better. Get to be out on the field with my teammates, so much more fun than in the cast.
Yeah, I can imagine you learned a lot the last couple of years of not being on the field. What do you think you took away from that you've been able to apply not only to fall ball but also this spring here in some of the action you've been able to play in?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like anyone that goes through an injury like an ACL or really any type of injury that puts you out long term just values the game so much more. And I know people say it so much, but just like cherishing the time that I'm out on the field and every moment, like living in the moment, trying to take advantage of every opportunity that I get, just because you never know what's going to happen with the world we live in today or just sports in general. So just really fortunate to be out there with my teammates and just be able to play the game that I love now.
That first game you had a chance to play in this spring was the first real game you had played in 2 years. What did it feel like?
It was amazing. It was one of the greatest things of all time. I will never forget it. I think I looked over at my sister during warm-ups and I was like, this is so cool. Like just being able to come back from an injury and play in a game is so special. And then to be able to do it versus a team like Northwestern, on a team like BC, surrounded by best coaching staff in the country and teammates, it just felt such an unbelievable way to come back. So fortunate.
Sounds like you're enjoying life there these days,
Yeah.
Mallory. You mentioned your sister, Annabelle. What's it been like to suit up alongside her this year and be able to play together again?
Yeah, it's so much fun. I mean, she's my best friend, and just to be able to practice with her every day, we try to do a little two-man game, and everyone kind of is like, oh, here come the sisters again. But it's just so fun, like being with her, and she's such a good teammate and such a good competitor. So she pushes me and everyone else every day. So it's super special.
So are you guys like inseparable off the field, like around campus too, or do you do your own thing?
We're both, like we're always together when we can be, but we also can do our own thing. But if I see her in the dining hall, I'll go say hi and sit down with her. So
What do you think you've learned from coming into this program and playing on this team that obviously came in with such high expectations after winning the championship? What's it been like to get immersed into that now in the middle of a season?
Yeah, I mean, it's so special to come in at the time that I did. BC had just broken the seal. They just won their first national championship, and they finally just got a taste of what that's like. So I think it just, like, on the girls that were on the team last year, like, they know what it takes. So they're kind of telling us about their experiences. I kind of lived it through my sister, but, like, just hearing it from the coaching staff, like, they know what it takes to win. So that's our game plan this season, just kind of following that pattern and, just really, like, so special to come in at this special time of BC lacrosse. The years before were great, and like leading up to this, that set them up for success. But I feel like so fortunate to be come in at the time that I did. So really learning a lot and just so excited to be a part of it.
I have to think it also makes you probably a little bit hungrier to have like what some of your teammates have, which is a ring, because you obviously got a chance to celebrate. You're going to be part of the team, but you weren't part of the team yet. And so your sister has a ring. You don't have one. How much hungrier does it make you to want to get another one?
Yeah, I mean, I was at that national championship game, and I was in tears in the stands, like watching. So I don't know what it feels like to actually win it, but I was so unbelievably happy for my sister and her teammates for them to win it. So yeah, I'm so hungry. I think the whole team is hungry to get another one, and I want to have one, so just so excited. And I think it's like flowing through our team right now is like, yeah, like everyone's so hungry, everyone wants it, like everyone knows what it feels like or has seen what it feels like. So yeah, very excited.
I mean, like you said, you were a bystander, a fan the last few years, and you got to see Charlotte North from that angle. How about playing next to her, alongside her on the field? What have you learned from her? I'm sure it's hard to duplicate some of the things she does, but what have you absorbed over the last few months here?
Yeah, Charlotte is such an unbelievable teammate and leader on the field. She just was named like greatest player in college lacrosse. And, coming in, I was like, oh, like she doesn't need to learn anything. Like she shows up every day, ready to compete, ready to push her teammates, and her energy is contagious. So that's something that I've really tried to grasp onto is just like, you can always get better. Like you could be the best player in the world and still keep getting better, still improving, still pushing your teammates. So that's such a special opportunity that I have to play with Charlotte and like kind of watch her at practice and learn from her as a player, a person, and a leader. So yeah, such a unbelievable experience that I didn't think I was going to have, but with the transfer portal and COVID and everything, like honestly very thankful for it.
So you have your first opportunity to play in one of these gigantic games here this weekend. BC, North Carolina, 1 versus 2. I'm sure you've watched plenty of these games growing up. What do you think it's going to be like when you get a chance to suit up on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I've watched like UNC battle with BC for years now, and it's always been one of my favorite games. Two great programs in the country in college lacrosse. So I'm just so excited. Like I look at my teammates and the other freshmen every day. I'm like, do you realize we're playing North Carolina on Sunday? Like, how cool is that? Like such a great program and coached by such a great coach. So I mean, I'm so excited. I'm so thrilled. Like any ACC competition, any competition that we play, but really this week especially is so big for us, and I think it's going to be a really good challenge and test for our team.
And this is why you went to BC, I'd imagine, right? For games like this, moments like this, even in the middle of March?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I signed up for, to play great ACC teams, play a team like North Carolina, compete, and, like give them our best shot, So, I mean, I'm so excited. Like I've dreamed of playing one of these games my whole life, and I'm just so excited to get out there Sunday. It can't come soon enough. I keep looking at my phone. I'm like, it's only Wednesday. I'm like, no, come on. Like, let's go. Like, let's go.
Well, luckily, it's Thursday today, so we're getting closer, right?
Yeah, I don't even know.
They all blend together at this point of the year.
I looked yesterday.
I know. No, I know. I'm just telling we're 24 hours sooner than when you looked yesterday.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Hey, Mallory, we can't wait to see this game, just like you can't wait to play in it. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch on Sunday. Good luck, continued health, and we'll catch up sometime down the road.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Mallory. So High Point's Asher Nolting does join us now. Asher, appreciate the time. And obviously, this is a big time of year for you guys. You got North Carolina coming up this weekend after, as you always play, a tough non-conference schedule. How would you describe the feelings going into another big game?
Yeah, no, I think obviously, like you said, we play pretty tough at a conference schedule. So, I mean, me being the fifth-year guy, I've played a lot of these out of conference ACC games. So, for me, it's another exciting opportunity to compete against some of the best, one of the best teams in the country. Obviously, that UNC team's very talented, and it's a super exciting weekend. So, I'm super excited to play them here, which is going to be awesome. Playing them in front of our home crowd, so that'll be a very exciting time for us.
You mentioned being a fifth-year guy, and obviously there was a decision for you to make in the offseason first on whether you wanted to play another year of college lacrosse and then whether you want to have that fifth year be back at High Point. Was there ever a question about coming back and being a Panther again when you were looking at your options this offseason?
Yeah, no, that never. This is my home. I've never really had any other ideas of going anywhere else. Coach Torpy and the staff here, their family. This place is one of the most special places, or one of the most special places in the country. This is my home. This is my second home. And when it came down to it, people always ask like, "Oh, you're you're gonna leave for your fifth year?" And I was like, "No, I'm gonna be a High Point Panther again." So, no, it's super exciting to be back here. Like we kind of said, it's weird being the old guy now. I've always thought of myself. Like looking back on it, I was like, oh, I got so much time left, and now I'm here in my fifth year. I'm like, well, I technically shouldn't be here, so it's funny to be here now. But yeah, no, it's great to be back, and yeah, definitely always going to be a Panther.
What's it been like? You mentioned being the old guy now, so to speak. What's it been like from being, the guy with the potential, the new kid on the block in the college lacrosse world, to being one of the standbys and the veteran even on your own program? That sort of transformation from all the potential, and all of a sudden here you are in year 5, realizing some of that as well.
Yeah, no, I just realized you get a lot grumpier with the younger guys. It's
patience, right? Not as much patience anymore.
You get a little impatient with them, but no, this group of freshmen that we have they're a great group, and I'm super excited to see them grow after this when I'm gone, and I'm excited to see these younger guys lead when I'm gone as well. And I look back again and say when I was younger, I was like, man, why are our seniors always so grumpy and like angry all the time? And I definitely get that now, so I got to apologize to them. But no, it's been great, and I'm really enjoying my time with these guys as much as possible. So, but I'm super excited to where this program's moving forward.
What's the most important thing you can pass along to them as they begin this journey?
We before every game we do some senior speeches. So a senior talks to the team about their journey at High Point and stuff like that. And I think every senior so far said just you don't realize how fast it truly goes. And I think everyone can relate to that, and especially with the COVID year, with this whole everything that went on then and how it cut everything short. I think it sped that up quite a bit, and I think looking back on it, it did go by super fast. It in a blink of an eye, I'm here for my 5th year, and it feels like maybe 5 months ago my parents dropped me off at Millis dorm for my freshman year. So it goes super fast, and that's what I tell them. I just enjoy every day as much as it can get draining sometimes going out to practice every day, whatever it is, it gets tough. But when you're in those moments, you got to realize, this is a special time, and you got to enjoy it as long as you can.
Along those lines, whether it's been the highlight reel goals, some of the big wins you've been a part of for this program, you've certainly left a mark even before you leave High Point so far throughout your career. What's the legacy that you hope you leave with this program?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think for me, I obviously with the records and all that stuff and beating those big teams, obviously those are great accomplishments. For me, I just want to leave my legacy on this program is just being a good leader, being something that the younger guys can look up to, leaving a standard that guys before me, like I said, my seniors and their seniors before them, had for this program. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think that's our motto for this year is keep the standard. And then that's exactly what it is. I mean, us being a younger program, we're not the young guys anymore, really, being our 11th year, but we're still we're still growing, and there's a lot of stuff that we're still moving towards. And I think it's a super exciting time for this program. And just keeping that standard that those guys that came here in 2010, 11 set, and just holding the rest of the team to the highest standard.
The college is known, and this time in your life is known as such a transformational time in a young person's life. You talk about some of the things on the field. Off the field, what's one of the more memorable moments you've had over the course of your 4 or 5 years over this college career you've had?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot. Probably not something I should say on air, but then there's the stuff that just being with your teammates, the locker room. I think that's the thing that I've realized that I'm going to miss the most. Being in the locker room every day with the guys. I don't think you can replace any of that time with each other. Obviously off the field, my roommates, housemates that I've had throughout my 5 years here. Those just being with your teammates in those scenarios is just a really, really special thing. And I'm trying not to take it for granted and realizing how actually special it is. So definitely gonna miss those times with the guys in the locker room, and then in our houses.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like those times. So embrace them while you still can. On the field, what's been your favorite goal you've scored so far? Give me one.
This year?
No, just whole career ever. Like you can even go outside of High Point if you want. Like, what's your favorite?
Probably got to be the first. I mean, if we're not gonna, I don't want to be cheesy, but probably my first goal ever in 3rd grade.
It is.
I can still remember it, which is crazy enough to think about. But no, it's I think my mom has a picture somewhere. I'm in some the Denver Bandits that don't even exist anymore. I think I'm in some like super tight black short shorts and some jersey that is not great, and some helmet that I can barely see out of. And I can remember we're in Boulder and I score, and I remember like thinking like this is an awesome sport. And I think that's kind of where I fell in love with it.
So you had these tight, short shorts on. You have like big quads back then. You had all muscle bound, third grader.
That's the issue. I think it was just they were so tight, and then it was just a terrible look. It was just awful.
They're almost like tights along with some
literally,
legs.
they were just on my body. It looked like compression shorts.
In terms of, you talk about that's where things started, and now a little bit of synergy here in full circle wise. I mean, you were drafted in the NLL second round by the Mammoth. In terms of the box game and your next step here, where does that play into things for you?
Obviously that was a super special moment for me. Being drafted by the home team that I've gotten to grow up watching, and going to the Pepsi Center, now the Ball Arena, watching. It was a super special night for me, super special moment. I'm super excited. I don't have a lot of experience in box, and I think they know that. I've been trying to keep quiet. If people keep asking me like, "Oh, are you excited?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can't wait. Like, I love box." But it's been a while, so I'm super excited to get to training camp. Hopefully, those guys don't beat me up too bad. But no, I'm excited to get that experience with them, and especially being the home team.
You talk about growing up in Colorado, and your dad was a golfer at Kansas, a good golfer. Where's your game? Do you play?
I do still play a decent amount. So, yeah, he in high school I could beat him when I was on the golf team, but now he's got me by a pretty decent margin. It's pretty frustrating when I go home and we play, because I think that I'm better than I am because of where I was, and then I get out there and I'm like, what's going on? And I haven't swung a club in 3 or 4 months. So, but no, it's great. That's some of my favorite times, going home and playing golf with my dad and my little brother. So he's on the golf team now too. So it's a lot of fun. We get to practice with him.
What's your game like? You putt for dough, you drive for show.
I'm definitely not a drive show guy. I think if you could find my high school golf stats, I think I probably hit 2 fairways in my whole career. But I could scramble like no other, and that's kind of my game, is trying to get something around the green in that second shot, get up and down, get out of there with a par. So I just try to make as many pars as possible.
You can get some style points like that, just like you do in lacrosse. Just be crafty. Hey, I think it's interesting because you guys have the unique situation where you've played both Maryland and Virginia this year, and obviously it's 1 versus 2 this weekend. When you look at that matchup, like from somebody who's seen both these teams this year, what do you see when you look at Maryland versus UVA?
I think anyone that's watched either of those teams or played either of those teams this year can see they're very special teams that they have out there. I think we gave them a good game, but again, both those teams play so differently. UVA with the hectic, back and forth kind of chaos style, and Maryland with the, concentrated, just want to pick you apart piece by piece. So it's good. I'm super excited to see that game. I think those are 2 great teams, and definitely they're both deserving of the 1 and 2. But I'm super excited for that game on Saturday.
Yeah, so are we. Excited to see you guys against North Carolina this weekend. I think that should also be another really good game, and seeing what you guys can do. I have one more question about Denver stuff. You're a Broncos fan, right?
Yes.
Russell Wilson, how you feeling?
I'm feeling really good. Mr. Unlimited. It's coming to Mile High City. That's what I'm excited for. That's a big get for the Broncos. It was a tough year. I'm not hating on Teddy Two Gloves, but him and Drew Lock just weren't getting it done for us. Hopefully Russ can come in and get us back to that Peyton Manning type offense and Super Bowl talent team.
Right.
What's your alter ego if he's got Mr. Unlimited?
Like, that was the nickname he gave himself. What's yours? That's my question too. Same thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the credit to give myself a nickname. But the guys on the team call me Gravy because I'm smooth, and I've gotten that since freshman year, and it's stuck ever since. So I don't think I've been called my name, and I don't even know how long. When my mom comes and visits, she's like, Asher, and I don't answer, and then I'm like, oh, you calling me? But yeah, no, I'm Gravy on the team.
Gravy is a fantastic nickname.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Keep that.
And I'm glad you don't have as big of a head as Russell Wilson does.
I don't think I deserve that.
He probably doesn't either, but that's a different story for a different day. Thank you for that.
Sure. We appreciate the time, man. Good luck this week. Good luck the rest of the way. It's been fun to watch you throughout your career, and can't wait to see how you finish this thing out.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on. Really enjoyed it.
So great talking to Asher, as always. A little golf talk there. And
we've got a lot of good golfers in NCAA lacrosse.
Is there a better nickname than Gravy?
No.
I mean,
smooth as gravy.
That's really good.
That's
I don't think I've heard anything like that. And he said that from his first day on campus. Like,
that's legit.
He's been Gravy ever since.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So we got some gravy for you now. Quick picks. We're going men and women here today. So we went obviously to the top. Those two big games,
right?
Unprecedented. We had to break those down. But now we'll make our way a little bit of way around the country here and talk about this week's games.
You're up first.
I am up first. I have Navy, Johns Hopkins, Friday, 7 p.m. Johns Hopkins, 11, Navy, 9. Navy coming off a 1-goal win over Colgate. Not the best in the world. They've had a little bit of a struggle, but Hopkins just can't seem to win in like pretty way. It seems like they're an ugly win kind of team.
Yeah.
Navy getting a boost. Xavier Arline just scored his first goal as a Navy lacrosse player. That's pretty cool. Maybe they'll ride that a little bit in this game, but I do like Hopkins, the bounce back, I guess, after a win over Syracuse and play better than they did, but still they didn't play well enough for me to think they'll win this one convincingly. And that's the story there.
Interesting. Part of a 2-game weekend for Hopkins. We've got them on Sunday against Delaware here on LSN. I actually really like that game, so that'll be intrigued to see how they do on Friday and then see how they respond on Sunday. Let's go to the Patriot League.
Yes,
this is a huge game. Lehigh at Army. Talk about a lot at stake for both these teams in terms of maybe an at-large conversation. I think Lehigh might be out of it, but I think Army, with the win over Syracuse, what they've done so far, their only losses to Rutgers, I think they may be in it. Fascinating matchup here at the Face-Off X. Will Collette for Army, coming off a 22 of 32 performance against Lafayette, was the face-off specialist of the week for the Patriot League. Obviously, him against Michael Sisselberger, who, after struggling in a couple of the games early, went 50% against Hobart in that loss, has rounded into form. He's right there at 69%. So I think that'll be key. But I like Army, even with Sisselberger, I think he'll have the edge at the face-off X. I still like Army in a close one, 11-10.
Okay, that should be interesting. How the face-off has sort of evolved here as this season has gone on. We thought we knew so much about it, and I feel like we don't know exactly who is in the top of the town anymore. All right, I'll go Yale at Cornell, Saturday at noon. I've got Cornell in this one once again, winning at Shellcop Field. 12-9, I have this score. You know what? It's kind of struck me about Yale this year. We had some high expectations coming in. Matt Brandaw, of course, coming in. I thought he could be a potential to Wharton finalist. Probably still could be if he goes on a nice run in the Ivy League.
For sure.
Really nice player. Yale's just a little bit younger, it feels like, than the rest of these Ivy League teams. Don't forget when everything happened with COVID, they were coming off of a championship in 2019 and what have you, or 2018, and they also had lost some of those players that were big pieces of that run in 2018, and they were sort of recycling a bit with some of these younger players you're seeing now, but they're still a new crop, and I feel like some of these other Ivy League teams have guys that have been there and done that a little bit more. Cornell is one of those teams. They got Piatelli. Their defense is a little more experienced, too. So I'm going with Cornell over Yale. I don't know if Yale is good enough on the back end to stop Cornell enough in this one, is my estimation. Experienced enough in that, too.
And Gavin Adler for Cornell defensively is great. I'm sure he gets the Brandow matchup. Yeah. That'll be a fun one to watch. We saw what he's done so against Jack Myers of Ohio State, took him out.
Yale just very young right now. And they've got a lot of promising young freshmen, but I just feel like we're kind of seeing that, some growing pains going on.
Maybe this is the win that gets them going, too. You never know.
I picked Cornell, so I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know.
All right, we talked about this game on Tuesday. Gigantic game for the ACC with Michigan at Notre Dame. We talked about it. If you missed it on Tuesday, go back and listen to the podcast. ACC has been down in the non-conference. This game is gigantic because of the implications of what it could do for Notre Dame to get a win over a ranked Michigan team. I think they do get it done. I like the Irish 14-12. Face-offs, though, are going to be an issue for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
They rank 61st of the 72 Division I teams, winning only 41% at the face-off X so far this year. Obviously, Michigan has been much better. They're up around 60%. They're ninth in the country. Pat Cavanaugh, though, I think can be a difference maker. He has to be better than he's been. He put up 8 points in that opener against Detroit. Notre Dame running away, obviously, as you'd expect them to do. He's got only 3 points in the last 3 games. They need Pat Cavanaugh to be the Tewaaraton finalist that he was a year ago against Michigan. I think he can be, because I think he'll have the opportunity to get some points against the Wolverines. I mean, you look at the defenses he's gone up against here in the last couple of games. They're tough. I think Michigan, as crazy as it is to say, I think is a step back from that. So I think Pat Cavanaugh goes off. I think they get the win.
2 very different starts to their seasons, Notre Dame and Michigan.
Complete opposite.
Michigan had some teams that they could go out and flex a little bit. Notre Dame had the exact opposite of that. And the battle tested for that one. I agree with that pick for sure. All right, got Harvard and Brown. Intriguing little Ivy League tilt here, if you will. This one at Harvard, Saturday, 1 p.m. I believe there's going to be a lot of rain going on there. So one of those gritty affairs. Brown seems feisty this year. They've been competitive in a lot of games. I'm leaning towards Harvard. I liked how they looked against Michigan and stopping a really good offense at that. I think that if it wasn't maybe a Ivy League rivalry game, I might have Harvard by a couple more in this one, just by the way they've looked so far this year. So I'm going Harvard by 1 goal, 11-10.
I like your score pick there, because I think if it's much over that, I think it gives Brown an advantage.
Yes.
Don't forget, and look, this is the Mike Daly offense that we saw at Tufts. That was the rage with Sean Kerwin bringing it to Brown originally, then to Virginia, Lars Tiffany, all part of that. So they can get up and go. They can score.
Against a Jerry Byrne defense.
It's a great matchup.
I know.
Fantastic matchup. I'm going to go stay in the Ivy League. How about Penn at Princeton? What a weekend in the Ivy League we have.
Yeah, some good matchups. First conference weekend, right?
Yeah, sign me up for this. Penn at Princeton. I think these may be the top 2 teams in the Ivy League by the end of the year. I've got Princeton 15-14. I really like this Tigers team. I think we saw a lot against the way in which they beat Rutgers. Was really impressive to me over the weekend. They've scored double-digit goals in every game Princeton has. That includes games against the likes of Georgetown and Maryland. So, like, you're scoring double-digit goals against maybe 2 of the top defenses in the country, or at least traditionally. And Georgetown, I think, certainly is one of the top defenses in the country this year. So they can score. I think that helps them. Alex Slusher, 9 goals in his last 2 games. I think he's a key. He's kind of taken over an offense that obviously was all centered on Michael Sowers when things ended back in 2020. They've got a couple of guys, but Slusher's really stepped into a star role.
14 goals for Penn there. That's a little surprising.
They scored 14 against Duke.
Yes, Duke not had the strongest defense in the world
I know,
this year.
but
I think that Princeton's defense is a little bit better. I don't have that much faith in Penn's offense.
But I think this is a Princeton, like you saw what happened against Rutgers. Like, it was a little bit more up and down.
Little bit more.
They're not a team
not a defensive juggernaut.
They're
I'm
a
not
team.
Saying that.
I'm saying that they can get stopped, but I think this is more of an up and down close game than it is like a stagnant 1 possession at a time, 10-9 type of game. I think there's a little more high scoring.
I don't know if Penn can play that. I have less faith in their offense of Penn than I do in the defense of Princeton, if you will.
Okay.
So that's where I'm coming from.
We'll find out.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move along. Denver at Ohio State, Sunday at noon Eastern time. I have Ohio State 15, Denver 13. I like the way that Ohio State's responded since the Cornell loss, number 1, and I don't know if Denver can stop that offense enough with Jack Myers playing the way he's playing right now. Ohio State's rolling a little bit more now. I think that Cornell loss was really good for them, actually, and moving forward to some of these other difficult games on their schedule. So I do like Ohio State. Denver just still struggling to find their guy, struggling to put things together still, and they played a tough schedule, too.
How many 1-2 goal losses does Denver have against
They played
good
a lot
teams?
of close games. A lot of close games, a lot of good teams. They're just not there. It just feels like something is just not there yet, right?
Yeah, if there's a game that, like, I think I like your pick, but it would not shock me if Denver finds a way to beat them. Just because it feels like Denver's due for something to flip and go the other way.
Tough to win there, though.
Very tough. In Columbus. Yeah. All right, let's switch to the women's side now. Quick picks.
Yes, we shall.
Staying with a Big Ten school, a couple of Big Ten schools. Michigan at Hopkins. First game that Michigan was held under 10 goals was the loss to Denver when they led 6-1 last weekend.
Yeah.
Led 6-1. They ended up losing 9-8. A really heartbreaking loss. I think they bounce back. I've got them 14-9 over Hopkins. I just don't know if the Blue Jays can keep up. The top 10 teams have been a tough stretch for Hopkins. They've competed and beat a bunch of other teams, even ranked teams like Drexel. they haven't been able to compete against that upper echelon. I think Michigan is edging toward that top 10 conversation. Caitlin Muir, terrific balance as an attacker here for Michigan. 13 goals, 13 assists. I think that's been key for the Wolverines.
Yeah, Hopkins, they led Stony Brook, actually, when they last played, but Stony Brook then went on
Ran
like
away
14-1 run after that. But
Wild.
Janine Tucker's club fighting and battling hard. I think that might be a little bit closer. We'll
Okay.
see. All right, Arizona State at Stanford. We go out west Friday
Let's
night.
go Wildcats.
7 p.m.
Come on.
I have Stanford winning 15-14. And Stanford's never lost to Arizona State. And Stanford played a tough schedule at the beginning of the year. They went back east, played Syracuse, had a couple of tough losses here and there. They do come off of wins over Cal and UC Davis. Not the most impressive of wins, but I like when a team starts to win games, no matter who it is against, and feeling some momentum. Ashley Humphrey, 5 assists. She's led Stanford in points in 5 of the 7 games they played this year. That red shirt sort of group of them that are now freshmen, sophomores, whatever you want to call them. This is the time of the season, I think, that they're going to start to play better. We talked about maybe some growing pains for them at the beginning of the season. A lot of new faces, talented young freshman class, a lot of red shirts from last year. Now we're getting to mid-March. I think they're going to start playing together better. So they come off, Arizona State coming off that big win over Colorado.
Huge win.
It's going to be a tough, I think, next game up after that to be able to go and beat Stanford.
Need to apologize. Sun Devils. Screwed up the nickname there. Go Sun Devils.
What did you call them?
The Wildcats, which is a criminal move.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whew.
I've now been taken off the bandwagon for Arizona State. Where's the love for the Sun Devils? Where is it?
All right, next
Got to
up.
get them some love.
All right, this game, my game.
I got, Florida Drexel, game you can see 11 a.m. Eastern here on
11
Sunday.
a.m. Eastern, Lax
Wake
Sports
up,
Network.
some coffee, maybe a little brunch action
I can
here
do that.
with LSN.
Yeah, cheesesteak if you're in Philly.
I have had a cheesesteak, I think, for breakfast. You know, at the Philadelphia airport, they do
breakfast
sandwich. Yeah, but with eggs and some steak on there, some cheese whiz.
No.
Unlike anything you will ever have. It's
I can't do
terrific.
that,
So
no.
grab one of those. Florida at Drexel women. I've got the Gators. I think they're going to ride some of the momentum from that win over Syracuse. I got them 13-11. Sarah Resnick, if she plays like she did against Syracuse, this Florida team becomes a lot more difficult to beat. She is only 3 double-digit save games this year, but coming off the 11 saves against the Orange, I think she keeps that rolling. Emma Lopinto, obviously highly regarded, top overall recruit coming into the country, living up to expectations. Second on the team in points as a freshman. Was she up to 29, I think, so far this year? So talk about being asked to step into a big role with a lot of people having left on that Florida offense from last year, and she's stepped in quite nicely.
Yeah, you mentioned Resnick. Consistency important for her. Great goalie matchup in this game against the CAA goalie of the year from last year, Zoe Bennett, who's played really well for them. Their defense for Drexel has been really good. Watch out for Carson Harris. She has done it all. You go look up some of her stats. You watch her on the field. When things might have been tough for them, she's been consistent as ever for Drexel. So I can't wait for that game. Please tune in this weekend. It should be a lot of fun for a couple teams that we expect maybe to be in tournament at the end of the year. So my next one, another CAA team, JMU at Virginia, Sunday, 1 p.m. It's just this offense for JMU hasn't gotten going yet this year, and it's been tough to see. And you got a team in Virginia that is so battle-tested, and they've played such great teams, and they played not badly, poorly.
They've played them well.
They've played all of them well. I think it's going to be tough for JMU to score against Virginia or do really well in the draw as well. So I do have Virginia winning this one 12-7. JMU they have to do something different offensively to really be able to catch fire here, and then they're going to have to catch fire sooner than later.
All right, my final pick, USC at Stanford. Second game of a 2-game weekend out west for the Cardinal. I like Stanford 12-9.
Ooh, a 2-0 weekend for Stanford.
This is a tricky 2-0 weekend for Stanford, but they've got 20-plus goals in their 2 wins over the weekend. Now, the competition's going to step up here this weekend, but I think maybe a chance for them to get going. Keep an eye on Ashley Humphrey, one of those highly regarded redshirt freshmen who were part of this recruiting
talked about her
class.
earlier.
31 assists so far this year. She has been key because Ali Bayako, she's going to score. So having Humphrey be able to set up Bayako, I think, is a great combination.
Yeah, I think they'll start to get things going here as we make our way through March.
Yep.
Quick picks. They were quick, and we had our top 2s. We had some good interviews, and we had a good day.
Yeah, enjoy 1 versus 2. We got the men's on Saturday, the women on Sunday. It's a perfect layout for what should be an awesome college lacrosse weekend.
When you're not watching those, we've got 4 games here on
starting
Lax
Friday
Sports
night
Network that we're doing over the course of this weekend. I got Hofstra and Stony Brook, Battle of Long Island on Friday night, and you have on Saturday.
Yeah, Rutgers, Hofstra, 1 o'clock on LSN, men's on Saturday. Then you got Sunday.
Drexel, Florida, 11 a.m. Sunday morning.
And then wrap up your Sunday night standalone game, Hopkins, Delaware. 2 teams are right there around that top end of the top 20. I think this should be a terrific game. So 7 p.m. Sunday night, wrap up your college lacrosse weekend with us, and then we'll see you back here on Tuesday.
And a happy St. Patrick's Day once again to you, and may the luck be ever in your favor.
We'll leave you at that. See ya.